Hello everyone, welcome to this demo session on SAP UI5 and Fiori Training with OData services on SAP WebIDE full stack. In this demo session, we will look at what is the basics of SAP UI5. Many of you had this question, Anubhav. I am an ABAP developer since couple of years, and I see now a change in the technology. My company is asking me to work and develop an application on SAP UI5 and Fiori. So can you please guide me if I will be able to understand and learn SAP UI5, and what are all the prerequisites for me to learn SAP UI5? My simple answer to you all is no matter which background you are from, if you have a very basic idea on programming, like if you would have done in your college days, school days, a C programming, doesn't need to know anything extra. If you're just basic aware of programming and the basic concepts of SAP, like data dictionary, then you will be able to learn SAP UI5 and Fiori. As I mentioned here on this slide, you can see there are no prerequisites to learn this course. Absolutely no prerequisites. Many of you think that I need to learn Java to learn SAP UI5. It's a myth. You will understand why it's a myth as in when we progress in our course. Yes, of course, it is important that you know JavaScript. So to learn SAP JavaScript, it's very easy. And we will cover that as part of our course. There is no Java knowledge required. And believe me, we will not be doing any copy paste of code. Most of the tutorials till today which you have seen, maybe on internet, maybe somewhere some of your friends would have given, or you would have attended some corporate trainings, you would have seen the trainers has this tendency to do copy paste of code. This way of teaching methodology is very challenging for understanding purpose, and it makes you kind of not a developer, rather a coder. So as a coder, you just copy paste, try to adapt this code a little bit and just show the output. But what about if you get into a production project where you don't have to write fresh code, rather you got to maintain and find the bugs? That's where it becomes really challenging when it comes to learning SAP UI5 and Fiori. Also, we do use latest tools as part of our training, which are trending in the market, especially the SAP WebIDE full stack from SAP Cloud Platform. So this is what will be our main intention. Not that all, we will also get aware of the other tools like WebIDE Personal Edition and what is the difference between these toolings. Then we will also talk a lot of real-time scenarios in this training. We will build actually a real-time Fiori application, starting with the fruits and then ultimately becoming or making an end-to-end application with the connectivity to the backend system. Together with that, I will also give you the right guidance for learning the right things in the right direction and what are all to-dos or not to-dos as part of SAP UI5. Then, as you can see on our channel, we have the highest number of YouTube views and highest number of videos till today on the YouTube channel. And that itself is a testimony. When I say my experience, I have total 12 plus years of experience in training. Of course, SAP UI5 Fiori is a new technology since last four and five years. I've been training on SAP UI5 since the emergence of first version 1.26. I am covering SAP UI5 and Fiori concepts. Till then, there has been abundance number of changes and improvements in this technology, and we always keep ourselves up to date with those changes so that we can get best and up-to-date content for all of you. So if I say I am teaching the concepts of SAP since last 10 to 12 years, 15 years, at least 10 to 12, 15 questions which are there in your mind should immediately go away. Questions like, is this guy genuine? Questions like, is this the right platform? Questions like, will he teach the right things? Questions like, will I be able to understand? If you see these questions which you have in your mind, they should not no more be at all any doubt. Because when you have doubt, then you have problems. If you are clear with your goals, then of course there are never a problem. So we will make our goal very clear. We will make our destination very clear, and we will make this whole thing very clear. I will also try to motivate you a time to time basis where you get the right guidance, you get the right energy to keep things up to date. As I promised, you would get a promise from me of no copy paste of code. With that, let's quickly move on to the structure of our course. So as I mentioned, it's divided into 4 phases. First is the foundation layer. We will make the foundation for SAP UI5. It's based out of open standards like HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery. And now again, this word called Java for ABAP developers is a very tricky word. Many of you from ABAP background looks very, very challenging that now I don't want to learn Java. I don't want to switch my career into Java technology. I've been an ABAP developer. No, please understand Java and JavaScript are completely different programming paradigms. They are different in their nature, in their design, the purpose. So we are going to learn JavaScript, not Java. I am myself not a Java expert. All right. So we will covering these things as part of phase 1 in our course. In the phase 2, we will move to SAP UI5 controls and frameworks. We'll talk about SAP UI5 architecture, which is based out of MVC architecture. We'll discuss the SAP UI5 SDK, how to use SAP UI5 SDK, how to create the artifacts in SAP UI5, how to create your first project in WebIDE, and what is WebIDE? First of all, of course, many of you are very new to this, so I would make sure that I get started with installation, with explanation of what is the development tool we use and how do we use and how do we get an access to the development tools. Remember, SAP WebIDE is free for practice and demo purpose, of course not for productive purpose. So there are 2 versions which you can use. One is WebIDE Personal Edition, another is WebIDE Full Stack. So we'll cover both of them in this course, and 80% of our course, or I would say 70 to 80% of our course is dependent on WebIDE. So it's free. You don't need to spend anything on any server right now. 70 to 80% of the course you will be able to practice easily in your local laptop or in your company laptop as well. So then in this section, we will also discuss about the control hierarchy, the libraries, the aggregation, the binding types, property binding, element binding, aggregation binding. Don't be overwhelmed with the content. Of course, I will make sure that I'll get you to the right path and the right direction, which helps you to create any application from scratch. Then in the third phase, we'll move to SAP Fiori UX, the difference between UI and UX. We'll talk about using SAP M library to build SAP Fiori application, the Fiori theming experience. What is SAP Fiori? Where can you, what types of Fiori apps you can create on SAP Fiori? We'll build an end-to-end Fiori application with all the latest concepts of SAP Fiori libraries, including component.js, router, route match handler, manifest JSON, all the variety of views. And in this course, we'll cover XML views, which is the industry standard. All the standard SAP applications are also built on XML views. So our main focus will be to learn XML views, of course, a lot of JavaScript coding, the dynamic programming, also the dynamic binding, and all these things will be covered, including the concepts of fragments and formatters. We will also talk about Google Map integration with this open standard technology. We'll discuss about OpenUI5 and SAP UI5. Now, I'm sure many of you, these terms which I'm talking are very, very new, and you have no clue what are all these terms. By the end of this course, I make sure that you will get the right insight, you will get the right knowledge to be able to perform extremely well as compared to your colleagues in your team. Towards the end of this, the climax, we will talk about building OData services in a real SAP system, and then connect our application with this OData service which we create. We perform all the create, update, read, and delete operations on that. The goal here is to basically create, install the required tools in your system, get an access to those tools, the development part, the develop application, write every single line of code without any copy paste. And we will do copy paste only once we are aware of code, once we know what this line means, what does this line exactly doing. That's what that's when we should move towards copy paste. Till that time, every single line of code at front of you, including scaffolding template, XML templating, XML namespace, writing the bootstrapping, writing the required files, writing the format of functions, writing the binding code, all the variety of bindings. So everything without any copy paste of code. That's a promise. And then finally deploy the application, which is then accessible for your end user on SAP Fiori Launchpad. So this will be, in a nutshell, I would say will be our goal: learning the required development tools, understanding the code, understanding the technology, understanding the framework, understanding what are all the things which you should put, understanding the right architecture, the best practices. And remember, all my trainings, all my sessions will be based out of gold standards. I will make sure that I'll give you the right gold standard. Many times it often happens that you written a code, but you are not so sure, is this the right way, is this the gold standard? If somebody tomorrow reviews your code, will they give you nice comments or will they give you nice appreciation? Right, that's a very challenging thing. So now we will make sure that we'll give you the right gold standard, so not just you're able to do things on your own, but you're also able to uh, deliver and multiply this knowledge with your colleagues. So with that, let's move on now. How do you subscribe for this course? To subscribe for this course, you can send an email or an inquiry on our website, and then we will give you the right direction to subscribe for this course. You can, of course, go to our website. So subscription. For that, you can go to our website, onlinefurytrainings.com. And from there, you can drop us an inquiry for subscription. You can also reply to the demo email which you had received today from Meenakshi, and then you can also subscribe for this. You can also drop us an email on install.abap@gmail.com. These are the contact details, and you can drop an email, and then we will subscribe you for the training. Now let's move on and start with our demo, technical part of it. So what is SAP UI5 first of all? And how do you create your first SAP UI5 application? So SAP UI5 is a framework. SAP UI5 is a framework. Now, what is exactly this word called framework? What does a framework does? A framework provides you a collection of libraries. What is a library? A library is a collection of classes, or called modules. What is a class or what is a module? It's a collection of attributes, methods, events, aggregation, composition, association, all these things. Yeah. Of course, we will learn all these concepts in detail, one by one. But in a nutshell, if you see, SAP UI5 is a framework, which means it's a collection of libraries. Now, examples for such libraries is sap.m, which is a very popular library called SAP Mobile Library. Then we have sap.ui.layout. There were some libraries in the past which SAP had, like SAP UI Commons, sap.suite UI control. Some of these libraries and the controls have been deprecated. So we'll discuss about deprecated libraries, what does a deprecation means, and why you should not use those deprecated libraries. Our main focus will be to work with SAP M, visualization library, UI layout library, templating library, MVC library, core library. Some of these libraries we will be using in detail. So when it comes to the framework, how this framework has been developed, this framework, the base of this framework is built on open standards. Open standards like HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, less framework, you have data.js, you have D3.js. These are all the open standards. These are open source frameworks on which this framework have been built. Out of these open standards, some of the quite important open standards are the first four: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery. We will be covering these four as part of our course, as part of our learning. It's already embedded in the course. You don't have to have any prerequisites. Some of you have mailed me, Anubhav, do I need to learn JavaScript before coming to your sessions? Of course not. Zero knowledge of JavaScript. You can learn SAP UI5. In fact, these days, BW people who are losing their job in BW, we don't have much work. People who are working on classical suite, people who are working on ABAP technology, they're coming and joining regularly these courses because they know the technology have changed. And it's better we take the decision at the right time for our career rather than keep postponing it. And if you keep postponing it, then one day will come when your friend will go ahead of you by learning these things, and you will still at the same place and regretting now. So it is better to have the pain of learning rather than having a pain of regret at later point of time. This is why the one single reason why we are unable to grow in our career. The reason is keep postponing things. Keep postponing until the last moment comes. Or see guys, your deadlines, your work in the company is never going to be low. It's never going to come down. But it's important for you to what do you need? You want to just work with the same team for lifetime, same company for the lifetime, or you want to learn, grow, and find a better place, not just necessarily be outside your company, but within your company, a better place where your work is recognized, you have been respected more, and that only happens when you have the right competence with you. When you have the competence which is currently running in the market, and as a developer, the learning is not just a one-day process, it's a continuous process. You keep on learning new things so that you can position yourself always better in your team and in your company. Now that's the base for SAP UI5. Now the overall SAP UI5 is divided into two components: the UI5 design time component and UI5 runtime component. And UI5 design time. So UI5 design time includes these libraries which I was mentioning: sap.m, then we have sap.commons, sap.ui.layout, sap UI core. These are all the libraries. Don't panic right now about these libraries. What are all these libraries? How do we use them? Where do we see the documentation? We'll cover all that in detail as and when we progress. So right now it's just, I wanted to show you that this is the overall picture, the big picture, and then we will go little drill down into this big picture and see how can we actually build our first UI5 application. So that's about the libraries. So now you can see this is an example of libraries, which is what this SAP UI5 is made up of. And then you have each library containing classes. So what are all the classes? Then example of a class is sap.m. Button is a class. So button is, if you want to create a button on the UI, you have to use sap.m. Button class. If you want to create a chart, then you have to use sap.vis. Frame. Okay, this is the code, this is the class which you have to probably use. If you want to create a simple switch control, sap.m.switch. So you can see earlier first thing is coming as library, and then inside that library we have a class, and that class is the properties. So let me just write down some property example. So for a button class, there is a property called press, or there's a property called text property which gets you the label for the button. Yeah, it's a property. There's a property called icon, with which you can set the icon for the button. Similarly, there are events. So for button, there is an event called press. When you press the button, when you click on the button, what should happen? That code you can write against the press event. So this is the overall structure. This is how SAP UI5 is designed, and this is what we actually use, reuse, and this framework, and we built on top of it. For example, if you heard about .NET framework, so .NET is also a framework which provides you libraries, reusable components. You can reuse them, quickly build your application and make it live. That's the whole idea. That's why. Now the question comes, and why SAP UI5? Why not SAP GUI? So SAP GUI is a very old technology. The main disadvantage of SAP GUI technology, which is typically you guys as a ABAP developer know that we do dialog programming there. Dialog programming includes PBO, PAI, module pool, all that. And by the way, you don't need to know all these things. To learn SAP UI5, just those who are ABAPers, they know that there is something like this kind of stuff which they do in their programming paradigm. And later point of time, SAP introduced web technologies. These two powerful web technologies were BSP and WebDintro. WebDintro was available for WebDintro Java and WebDintro ABAP. So this is one option. And on the other side, we have this BSP, Business Server Pages, which were two web technologies which SAP has released. But then finally, we have got SAP UI5, and we have got Fiori user experience as a guideline for SAP UI5. So SAP UI5 is the framework, and Fiori is the guideline now, which is basically allows you to say, hey, you should design in this way. If you do it this way, you get the best user experience. So that has become the new UI technology. Then you say, maybe why do I need to go with UI5? This question may tickle in your mind. Why everybody is saying UI5, UI5 around me? Everybody's learning UI5. What is the need for that? How it is different from Fiori? Is the Fiori UI5? So guys, UI5 is basically gives you the framework. And now, once you get the framework, it's up to you to design. So now, how do we make sure that we design an application which looks like standard SAP Deliver application, which gives a nice user experience? So that's where Fiori is about the UX guidelines. If you follow those guidelines, you will be able to design an application which looks absolutely like a standard app, and the user experience you get inherently as part of Fiori. It's not that all. You have also a lot of concepts like theme designer, launchpad designer. We will of course not discuss launchpad as part of this course. If you want to go advanced Fiori, then you can subscribe to my advanced Fiori training. But here we will cover SAP UI5, we will cover Fiori, we will cover OData service and all the foundation concepts in this course. So now, what is the need for this new framework? What is the need for this UI5 technology? The need is everybody is moving now onto the cloud. They're moving their solutions into the cloud. And when you move to the cloud, your users, your end users can access the application from anytime, anywhere, on any device. So the whole idea here is to allow our end users to enable mobile. Basically, we want to allow them to access our application from desktop, from tablets, as well as from mobile phones. That's the main goal. And the WebDintro and the SAP GUI technology doesn't cater to that requirement that good. In fact, just to take a small example, on WebDintro, you cannot just support the browser back button. Yeah. Those who worked on WebDintro, they know that you cannot support the browser back button. That's the smallest example. These technologies which you have, web-based technology, they become a bottleneck. They become a bottleneck for developer to do things beyond the boundaries of these technologies, and that's where they also does not support the mobile devices. The experience which you get in the mobile is not that great. So that's the reason why SAP UI5 and Fiori was introduced, where you have now the usage of open standards. So you can achieve better integration. You can call Gmail, you can have integration with Twitter, you can have integration with Facebook. So that is possible because all of these companies, they offer the JavaScript APIs. We will actually cover Google Map integration as part of our course. You will understand how powerful SAP UI5 is. We can also design our own controls and libraries in UI5. It's called custom controls. So we will also learn that it doesn't become a bottleneck for us. And this is the reason why every SAP product, every SAP screen is now slowly moving to SAP UI5 and Fiori. And that is the need today. You are all here, we are all here to learn SAP UI5 together, to understand what is this technology so that we can perform better, because as we know that this is the future, this is the need. Nobody is going to ask for dialogue programming. The time for ABAP developer is gone. And now the time has come for a UI5 and Fiori consultants. There are a lot of job openings in the market for UI5 and Fiori consultants. The other day, one of my students called and she said that, Anubhav, I am in Pune and I had put my resume on with SAP UI5 into it after attending your course. And on single day, on almost every day, I'm getting inquiries. On one single day, she's got 4 inquiries, 4 job openings. We also have a job portal on our website. You guys can also check. I will keep posting the job requirements on UI5 and Fiori continuously on that job portal. So you guys can also get to know all these things. So that's the need, that's the evolution of UI technology reaching to SAP UI5. So enough of theory, let's go ahead and now talk about creating our first simple application. So how to create a simple simple first application. So guys, whenever you start creating a program, when you start writing any program, the first thing which you do is typically do an initialization. Exactly, right? So you do an initialization. So you say, I want to initialize certain code. So that's the first thing which we start always whenever we work with any technology. The first important thing which we do is initialization. After initialization, we do our data declaration, or I just said initialization, and then we also load all the dependencies. So suppose you want to reuse a method, you want to reuse a function, so you have to also load the dependencies. So for example, in C programming, this is the simplest example. When you started in college days and you C program, the first thing which you got to do is create a .css file, right? Or .c file, and then inside that file you used to add hashtag studio.h conio.h, right? Do you able to recall studio.h conio.h? So this is what basically loading a dependency here. And in the next step, after loading the dependency, we declare our variables. We have some application logic, our processing engine. So we write all the application logic, all the manipulation, calculation, everything, whatever we want to do. And finally, we just create or show the result to the user. Basically, we do an output to the user. And once this is all done in a nutshell, we make this application live, we make this application usable for the end user in an easy way. So these are all the steps which we do typically writing a first program anywhere, any programming language. This will typically be flow. Of course, some of these steps may be excluded, some of them depending on your requirement, some of them they are optional, some of them are needed, not needed. You will also do some cleanup code at the end. You will dereference, deinitialize, or destroy all the instances, the objects which you created to clean up your memory. So this is a typical flow of a program. So similarly, on the same note, when we start a UI5 application, UI5 program, we also follow the same steps. So first we start creating an HTML page. An HTML page starts with an HTML tag like this, and then it includes 2 sections. One is called header, which is the brain of an HTML, and another part is called the body of HTML, which is what user actually see. Yeah. So this is how a typical HTML page is built. So let's create our first HTML page as part of our development environment. So what is our development environment? Our development environment is SAP WebIDE. All right, both SAP WebIDE Personal and or you can use SAP WebIDE Cloud Edition, which is available in SAP Cloud Platform Trial. So you can also use that. I will explain you. Don't worry. This is our demo session. In our first class, which is on Monday morning, I will show you what are all the development tools which we have, what development tools we use, and how do we get this screen which I'm getting here. Don't worry right now, overwhelmed with this. I will show you in our first class how to set up your development tool. All right. Now I can come back and say new. I will create a new folder. Basically, creating a folder is creating a new project. So I'll say demo July. And by the way, guys, I will share all this code with all of you. We have our training blog, which I will be sharing with all of you. This is the blog which you all will get an access. So just to show you an existing training blog, how does it look like for you guys to experience it. So this is how our training blog looks like. Every class which I conduct, I will record that class, and that class I will share with you with our training blog. You all can go ahead and learn. Even you missed a class, you can refer that class. Even you could not pay attention to the class, you can refer back the video of that class. So I will share all these videos in our training blog. So it's a complete self-service. You can see my already completed batch, all these topics which we were recorded and we published. So this is the benefit of online training. In an offline training with a trainer, you may not be able to record everything. So that's why if you missed out something in the class, there's no way to probably go back and look at it. But here is where the online training benefit comes into picture. You can easily go back and check all the content, check all the recordings once again if you missed out. And guys, we will also give you complimentary object-oriented ABAP. You can see these complimentary sessions will also be published on the training blog. You guys can go ahead and use them. All right, this is another benefit you get as part of my training. We will offer you the complimentary object-oriented ABAP sessions as part of this course. Of course, those who are not ABAP developers, don't panic. The course does not need any ABAP skill. All right, 80% of our course you will be able to learn without having any ABAP skill. Just need to know basics of programming, that's all. You don't need to know anything else. Now coming to the schedule of the class, on the daily basis, whatever class is scheduled, whatever classes are planned, you will get this link here. You'll see the calendar invites to join the class, the course content, and all the study material, including the PPT, the presentation, the blog, the projects which we create, the small text files which we create, the programming exercises. I will keep giving you exercises. You have to post the solution of those exercises. So solution of those exercises, all these minute things which we cover, all the useful links, all the training material, everything will be shared with you. It's a complete self-service. So you don't have to worry and run behind me asking, Anubhav, where is the PPT of today's class? Where is the recording of today's class? You will get. So those who have already subscribed, I'm sure you all have received the blog access for our training, for our current training. So those who are in hurry, they want to quickly complete it. They don't want to wait for the live batch to finish. They can go with video mode of training also, because we already have all the videos recorded for you, pre-recorded for you, and you can also go with video mode of training. That's another option. You guys have it. All right, let's come back here on the demo, and this is our first project, and just create a file inside, and I'll say anubhav.html. You can name anything, and as I mentioned, we have to always start with an HTML file. So HTML file looks like this, and it has actually two components inside, two components inside an HTML file. It has a header and it has a body. These are called tags. Okay, so this guy is called a tag. So we will understand, of course, in our third unit, the start of basic HTML. So there we'll discuss more in detail. But right now, just understand there's an HTML, and it includes a header and a body. Now, this is our step number one. So let's write something in the body. Whatever you write in the body is what is visible to the end user. So I'm going to say, hey, welcome to my next batch on SAP UI5 and Fiori with OData. And I want to also put a link here, an anchor tag. It's called an anchor tag. And this anchor tag, I'll say click here for course details. And this anchor should take you to an href on an internet, a path, and it should take you to my website, http www.onlinefiorytrainings.com. So that's a very simple body content of an HTML. And now you see this run button here. Just click on execute, and there you go. You see it launches the page. We got a very simple page. It's not UI5 yet. It's just a basic HTML. Welcome to my next batch on SAP UI5 and Fiori with OData. And now you see we got a nice link here to click. Let's click on that, and you would see it will navigate us to onlinefiorytrainings.com. Superb, guys. So that's a very simple basic HTML. Of course, we'll deep dive inside HTML. We'll learn HTML5. What is HTML5? Interview questions like difference between HTML5 and UI5, difference between OpenUI5 and SAP UI5. I will make sure that I'll cover all the interview question and certification questions as well as part of this course. All right, that's so important. In fact, all the certification guidance is anyway already available. If you can go to the next batch section, just click on the next batch section on the website, go to the UI5 in Fiori Training. You can see Get Fiori Certified. Here you will get the certification guidance material for taking you through the certification code, what are all the details, what is the course structure, what is the exact structure of the certification questions on SAP UI5 and Fiori. So all these details are already published on the website. You can anyway go through it, and you can also drop an inquiry. Anyways, when you want to subscribe, you can anyway reply to the mail to Meenakshi, and she will give you the necessary details to subscribe for the course. All right, so that's our simple HTML, but we want to build a UI5 application. So the first thing is coming is initialization and loading dependency. So if you want to use this SAP UI5, which is a framework, you have to get that framework from somewhere, correct? As I mentioned, it's a framework. Now, if you want to use that framework, you have to get it from somewhere. So what is that somewhere where you can get it from in your application? So that somewhere is the internet. So SAP has already made SAP UI5 and Open UI5 available on the internet. And on the internet, when you're hosting something of this kind, a library or a framework, the place where you host is called CDN. Okay. CDN stands for Content Distribution Network or Content Delivery Network. There are many people use these terms interchangeably. So some people say Content Distribution Network or Content Delivery. Both are same network. This is an interview question. What is the full form of CDN? I will cover all the interview question. Make sure that you selected in your interviews. My hit rate is 90+% for candidates who attend this training properly. 90% plus hit rate for any interview. Some of the candidates have closed more than 5 offers, and they're now putting these offers on the table and asking the family which one to choose. So this is what happens after the training. I'll show you some testimonials at the end of this demo session. So this is called Content Distribution Delivery Network, from where we will get it. The URL from where you get that is http://hana.ondemand.com/resource/SAP UI core.js. So let me take this URL and put it in my browser, and you can see it's giving some data out. So you don't have to worry about what is it giving, but just wanted to show you that it's an address of the CDN where the UI5 framework is available for consumption. So now it's time that we plug that as initialization. So initialization is done in the header part. It's the brain of HTML, and that's where we write our initialization code. So we say script. I want to load a script. What is the script? We will discuss that in unit number 6, where we'll talk about JavaScript concept, the basic JavaScript concept. So right now, just understand that we are loading the dependency. We are loading the required dependency over here. We say script tag and then say where is this script should be loaded. It should be loaded from src, my source, and my source is this URL which I just showed you guys. That's the URL where my script is going to get loaded from. And now we also say SAP data SAP UI libs. So what is this libs does? Now guys, as I mentioned, this framework is a collection of libraries. Now, do you want to load all the libraries? Of course not. You may not need them, right? So if you load all the libraries, the loading time will be very high because it has so many libraries. So that's the reason we say, okay, please don't load everything. I want to load only one library right now, SAP M library, which is what I need actually right now to create my first application. So that's my initialization code. And since the way when you start your computer is initializing, that process is called booting. When you start your computer, that process is called booting, which means the operating system gets loaded into your primary memory. It's called booting initialization process. Similarly, you are initializing here a UI5 framework. So this concept is called bootstrapping. So bootstrapping, what is bootstrapping? Somebody asked you in an interview, what is bootstrapping? A bootstrapping is a process of initializing the framework in our app. So a lot of people say bootstrapping is wrong. Bootstrapping is not correct. There's a problem in bootstrapping. It's basically initializing the framework, desired framework in our application to load the required libraries and dependencies. That's what called bootstrapping. So now the bootstrapping can be done for Android, it can be done for iPhone, ISDK, it can be done for jQuery, it can be done for Google Maps, Twitter API. That it's all called bootstrapping in general in the industry. So it's basically initializing and loading the required frameworks and libraries in your application. So that's the bootstrapping. And now I say bye-bye to this code maybe, and I'm going to write our first SAP button. So for that, writing a button, again, we use a script tag in which we will be writing the button code. So let's put in there, and now I'll say I want to create my first button. Very simple. So we know that we loaded this library. As I mentioned, there is a collection. Library is a collection of controls or classes. So there's a class called button class in this library. So I'm going to use that. So let's come back here and say var and say oh button. I want to create a button called Spider-Man. So O means it's an object, guys. It's an object. So we're creating a variable, var variable. Spider-Man is the name, and I'll say new sap.m.button is my class. That's my class in which from which I'm creating the button object. So I've just created an object for this button class actually. Now, once this is created, I can now have to give the text of the button. What should the user see as a label for the button? So that we'll give in curly braces, and now we'll say text, and I'll say Spidey. That's my label for the button, and I just end it with semicolon. Awesome, guys. So this is a very simplest example, like a hello world example, where we're just creating a object, creating a button object, button class object over here. And now what I'm going to do is take this. So right now this is creation of a variable. So if you remember the steps of basic programming, first step was initialization, loading and dependencies. Second step was creating our variable. We did that. And now, of course, right now we don't have an application logic. And then we say show the result to the user. So now we have to show this result, this button to the user. How do you show this? The main idea here is user don't see things until they are placed in the body. So until this button is placed into the body, user don't see this. So now if I run, you get a blank page. So let me execute. You get a blank page actually. So you see it's a blank page. You didn't get anything actually. Why? Because the button is not yet available in the body. So I'll create a placeholder here. So I said div stands for division tag. We'll cover this in HTML5 chapter. Don't panic right now. So just say ID. I just give an ID to this div, and I'll say Anubhav. And this is a placeholder. This is an area where my button is going to come and sit. So now I'll say, hey, my button, hey, my object, can you please go and sit into Anubhav? So I just call a method for this object, playset method. So now the question comes, Anubhav, where this playset method residing? How do you know there's a method called playset? How do you know there is a property called text? So this is covered in unit number 11. We will talk about UI5 SDK and the documentation for the controls. So that's where we will cover this right now. Don't be overwhelmed. It's just a demo session. Please understand, I'm just wanted to make you guys comfortable. So I'm not going depth into it. Of course, in our detailed training, we'll go to the every depth of the topic. So now in here, we will say, please place this button into Anubhav, and I'm going to save this. So now this line of code exactly placing your button object inside the Anubhav element, which is there inside the body of HTML. So that's what exactly is happening here. Every single line of code, no copy paste of code. That's our style of learning. And now you go back and just refresh and see, wow, there you go. You see the Spidey button is now available, and it's clickable also. Of course, right now we didn't write any application logic. What should happen when somebody click on the button? So that's something which I want to also quickly write down. So I say comma, and whenever somebody press, this is an event, as I mentioned, into the class. Let's just go back, and see here, it's an event. There's a press event for a button control. So I'm going to press, and I'll say, hey, whenever somebody press, call this function. And in this function, I'll say alert, and I'll say welcome to this demo on by Anubhav. So that's what I want to print on the screen. I want to give a pop-up, and in that pop-up, user should see this message. So this is a function in JavaScript, alert function, just to show a pop-up to the user. So we're just reusing it. Don't worry, we have a dedicated session on JavaScript. We will learn basics of JavaScript in so that you guys will be able to work with JavaScript, no matter which background you are from, whether you are from ABAP, non-ABAP, BSP, WebDin Pro, you have done something or not in your life, but at least if you have basic programming knowledge, that is a prerequisite. Basic programming knowledge about any programming knowledge. If you ever touch any programming knowledge, you will be able to learn SAP UI5. It's my promise. मैं आपका साथ last तक नहीं छोड़ूंगा. You don't leave my hand. I will not leave your hand, and I will make sure that we achieve the greatest success. We taste the success of building an end-to-end UI5 and Fiori application. So that is my promise, but you have to do equally the hard work. So if you think that you will not do hard work, just come to the session, learn. Sorry, please don't join. In that case, you got to practice. You got to give, I will give you exercises, you got to practice them, you got to publish your solution, you got to do hard work as equally as I will do. All right, so now let's go back, and I refresh our app because we made a change, and I'll click on the button, and voila, there you go. Welcome to this demo by Anubhav. You can see the result is coming. So that's a very simple example of creating our first application. You see, this is called bootstrapping. Now, on the other side, if you see, the look and feel of this screen doesn't look so beautiful, yeah? Doesn't look so beautiful because right now the theming experience is missing. So we have to also now say, hey, I want to load a theme. Hey, UI5, can you please load a theme for me? SAP UI theme. And I'll load SAP Blue Crystal theme. So what are the different themes available? We have Fiori 2.0, with which we have SAP Bleeze theme, and soon SAP is also bringing with Fiori 3 experience. With that, another theme is coming up. So we'll discuss that in coming classes. What are all the theming experiences we have with SAP UI5? So I'll just add that theme, and I'll also say my whole page should be colored in that theme. So for that, I have to go to the body, and I'll say, hey, can you please color entire page? So I have to add a class at the page level, the body level, SAP UI body. This is mandatory. Now, what is this class? It's not an object-oriented class. It's called a CSS class. We will cover that in the chapter number 5, our CSS unit, the class-based styling. So right now, just mention that we have first initialize. We say, hey, UI5, can you please load this theme for us? And when the theme is loaded, where should it get applied? So we are giving here a placeholder that the theme should be applied on the page level. Entire page should be colored with that theme. So I just save this and just go back. Watch out, just refresh. And let's see, voila. You see now the coloring, the background color has changed, and the button style is also changed. It is getting you a kind of a Fiori look and feel with the help of this button. So this is how you can create your first application without a copy paste. Don't do copy paste of code, and don't learn from trainers who are teaching you copy paste, because they are not teaching you, they are cheating you. You will not be able to understand. Maybe you would have tried learning UI5 from different blogs and internet and different courses or videos, but you were not that greatly successful. You still don't get the idea behind every line of code, and that's what we make sure we deliver it to you, so that you get the right idea, you get the right experience, the right knowledge. So not just you can yourself understand, but you can make others also understand. Yeah, so that is the whole idea. In terms of experience, if you look at, you can check our YouTube channel. We have highest number of videos on SAP UI5, ABAP on HANA, UI5, Fiori, Gateway. This is our YouTube channel. It's a complete learning university for all the latest technology, not just SAP UI5, but you can actually learn everything which you need today to perform great in your company. We have variety of courses, all for technical consultants. Of course, we don't have functional courses like S Finance, S Marketing, or the functional thing. We are mainly designing courses for developers, architects, freshers, people who are working on BW, the technical areas, workflows, ABAP, OOPS ABAP, WebDimpro, BSP. Now you're seeing a shift, everything moving towards the latest technologies with ABAP on HANA architecture, HANA-based solutions, and front end is getting changed to Fiori. So this is where we have this channel, #1 channel today on the YouTube for the latest technical learnings on SAP latest technologies. You can watch out, you can subscribe to our channel for a lot of free videos we are also offering here. You can go ahead and subscribe that as well. Of course, this course is not available publicly on YouTube. For that, you have to subscribe. And the video which we recorded today will also be soon published on the YouTube as a demo for your reference. You can find in the description of this video a direct link to the course page. From there, you can also jump into the course and you can start learning. With that, thank you so much for attending today this demo session, and I wish to see you guys on board. Our classes are starting regularly, morning 7 to 8 o'clock, weekday morning 7 to 8, Monday to Friday, India time. So for most of you, it will be Sunday evening till Thursday evening, US timings. Yeah. So that you can check the time zone accordingly. We'll send you the details. Please feel free to send an email to us on install.abap@gmail.com for subscribing for this course. You can also write to us on onlinefiorytrainings.com. So thank you so much. Have a nice day and goodbye.